Hello everyone and welcome back to a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Tropical Sacrifice. Now, spawning here in the top right hand corner of the map, playing with the red Zerg drones from South Korea, we have Solar, and then his opponent in the opposite corner with the blue SCVs. Likewise also from Korea, we are looking at GuMiho's main command center. Alrighty, so GuMiho versus Solar in a best of 5 series. And this particular best of 5 is the grand finals of the ESL Open Cup 137 from South Korea. And if you're watching this video on the day that it goes up, it was literally played last night. Or I guess depending on what time zone you're in, it was literally played yesterday. So it should give us a very good view of what these two are currently capable of. Now, since this is the grand finals, they obviously had to take a couple of players out along the way as well. And both of them definitely, had a good day yesterday. So GuMiho ended up taking down Special as well as Bjorn. And Solar beat Cure and Creator most notably to make it to the grand finals. Now all of those players are looking really strong right now, so at the very least that means that they were feeling good. Interestingly enough, Solar actually, about a week ago or so, he announced that he left KaiZ Gaming since his contract was up and that he no longer had a team. Then he played this grand finals last night, and then right after that he announced that he joined Team Onsite. So yeah, pretty cool to see that there's still teams out there that are investing in StarCraft 2. Onsite in particular, though, has now got a really sick lineup. So they obviously signed Maru as their very first player. Then they got Neep, the Taiwanese Zerg player Rex, and then also now Solar. So yeah, definitely a nice group of players to have. Anyhow, pool first right here from Solar. Not too surprised, especially against someone like GuMiho. So I've casted quite a few of GuMiho's games over the last couple of months. Probably the most fun Terran player to watch right now if you're, well, interested in crazy strategies, right? He's perfectly capable of playing that normal game, but the vast majority of especially the Korean Terran players are really happy just playing that very laid-back style where they just try to turtle up and then they make a lot of ghosts, right? We've seen that type of game quite a bit over the last couple of months, and while I do like watching those games as well, GuMiho definitely likes to go for his own play style. He goes for a lot of battle cruisers, he goes for a lot of mech, he plays a variety of strats, so not entirely sure what he felt like playing yesterday, but it's always interesting to see. So wouldn't be surprised if Solar is going to opt to go for a spawning pool first relatively commonly, or often, in this particular match. Alright, nice control right there by GuMiho. That does not justify going for a pool first, I would say. Losing 3 Zerglings right there for 2 SCVs, and obviously the later hatchery right here on the low ground. I don't think that quite adds up. Anyhow, just because Gumi definitely likes to play a variety of playstyles, I think it's a good idea as a Zerg player to try and just take control of the pacing of the game. And going for a pool first is definitely one of the ways in which you can tell your opponent, okay, if you were thinking about going for a proxy Rex on my side of the map, for example, in the remainder of this series, just know that I went for a pool first, and, well, that may very well accidentally hard counter your strategy. So I like this start right here from Solar, telling his opponent right from the get-go to back off. It's gonna be Cloak right here for Gumi. No Reactor, interestingly enough. So this is gonna be a very, very fast Cloak. Okay, we are gonna go for a Reactor eventually, but this is the fastest possible Banshee you can get with a, well, very quick command center on the low ground as well. So obviously you could go for like a proxy starport on the other side of the map based off of one base, but hey, what? I've never even noticed these guys before. Would you look at that? I've casted quite a few games right here on Tropical Sacrifice, but these lads over here are just having a good time. Love it. Playing with the sticks. What is that guy doing? Can't really turn the camera far enough. I think he's just dancing. Anyhow, this is going to be a very, very fast Banshee. Shouldn't be anything that is really going to catch Solar off guard. It's not going to have the cloaking upgrade until about 4.5 minutes into the game. Although usually in the Terran versus Zerg matchup, okay, yeah, Zerg players don't actually start up these spores until about 4:20, 4:25, maybe 4:30. Solar, though, knows very well who he's playing against. He hasn't seen Hellions, he hasn't seen Marines, or at least not in critical amounts to really, confirm that it's not going to be a super fast Banshee. So he decides to play a very, very safe approach. He's already got the lair done, by the way. So he's got an Overseer as well as Spore Crawlers. This basically means that he's playing the safest possible opener you can go for as a Zerg, while still playing, you know, a macro-focused style. Okay, Banshee does get pushed back. Luckily here for Gumi, it does not die. But look at the timing right there of the third hatchery. Normally at this point in the game, it's already long done, usually mining. So this does mean that, yeah, Solar doesn't really take a whole lot of damage in the early stage of the game, and that's fine and all. But it also means that he has cut his own economy in half. So, yeah, he needs to get something done here in a moment when he does get those Mutalisks out. So despite the fact that this is not particularly successful right here as far as the openers go for GuMiho, I think he's okay with it. His third command center is, yeah, nearly done at around the same time as the third hatchery from the Zerg, and I think Terran players in general are pretty happy when they go up against something like this. I mean, imagine it would have been like a third command center before the starport. This would have been an overwhelming advantage here for GuMiho, and obviously he didn't really need to do anything for it. Alright, let's see. Ah, transfusion on the drone even. Okay, Solar. Now you're just showing off. Not even entirely sure if that's worth the energy. But at the very least, okay, one drone. At the very least, Solar is feeling it so far. Alright, Mutas are just about to spread their wings out on this map. I honestly don't really know if I like Mutaling Bane play on this map. The thing is, with Mutaling Bane, you really want to get aggressive, right? You really want to do a lot of, well, run-bys and flybys, and especially roll-bys into mineral lines. You could technically, like, roll Banelings up this ramp and right over there, and I guess from here too, but I've personally not found a lot of success with Mutaling Bane on this map. Maybe it's just because I'm bad at the game, but yeah, generally speaking, yeah, Terrans are really good at just simply defending the terrain, right? So this is a large ramp over here, but if you have a couple of siege tanks set up, it's really quite hard for the Zerg to get some damage in. Okay. At the very least, the Widowmine gets spotted. This shouldn't really do a lot of damage. Nicely done right here by Gumi. On point with the missile turret timing. He doesn't really have any units inside of the main base, though. So these add-ons, alright, well, apparently there was a Widowmine. I didn't see it. Neither did Solar. Apparently, yeah, you know what? He pushes this back without too much of a problem. And so far this game, despite the fact that Solar really didn't take any damage, is going really quite well here for GuMiho. So I think the strategy right here... I think the strategy right here for Solar is just to survive the early game. Because I think he probably assumes that he's going to be better in the later stage of the game. Right, Solar, a very formidable macro Zerg. GuMiho can definitely be a little bit on the cheesier end of things. Honestly, I don't like this at all for the Zerg. Ah, beautiful. Nicely done there by GuMiho. Killing 8 of those Mutas already at this point in the game. If this would have been a super macro-focused start for Solar, maybe that would be acceptable. Probably still would not be acceptable, but at this stage in the game, I would say, yeah, when you cut your economy this much to get the Mutas out, losing the first 8 of them? That was a great start right here for Gumi. Alright, so what's the follow-up going to be? So GuMiho finished up the +1 upgrade and goes straight into +2. So no second NG Bay, no armor upgrades on those Marines. Stimpack is done, but Combat Shields is also, well, still a little bit behind. Interesting... Well, maybe for GuMiho it's not that interesting, but interesting way of upgrading the units. These Marines are gonna pack a punch at this point in the game, because they have Stimpack, they have +1, but they have very little survivability. Okay, good control. Nicely done right there by Gumi. It's important to obviously push those Banelings back, and actually getting rid of the creep here is huge. Because if he wants to mount a big attack as soon as like +2 is done, getting rid of any creep, especially in this section of the map, is super nice. Obviously, there's a nice couple of locations where you could put your siege units. In the meantime, Mutas once again trying to be annoying. This time around, they do find at the very least a couple of SCV kills. Yeah. Don't think this is really going to hurt them all too much, though. Yeah, so only 8 workers have gone down so far. Nothing too crazy here. Alright, so finally Zerg has got an economy, right? So this has taken about 9 minutes of in-game time. Now Solar can really start pumping out army. Luckily for him, he survived up to this point in the game, because I think there's a lot of Terran players out there like, okay, if your early game is, you know, this bad, economically speaking, I'm just going to try and hit you in the face with a timing attack. So far, that hasn't happened yet here for Gumi. He did, by the way, go for a second NG Bay here eventually, too. Okay, Banshee trying to see if he can potentially snipe that hatchery before it can get up and running, but here's a real big push. Honestly, this is, I say a real big push. It's really not that big at all. That's what she... No. Yikes. So this is very much so GuMiho's image coming into the game, right? GuMiho is not even really playing something out of the ordinary here or something super crazy. There's no battle cruisers or weird hellbat pushes or anything along those lines. But this is Solar just playing the opponent. can guarantee you if this would have been Maru who was going up against or Björn, he would not be going for this start. So already, it seems to me that, yeah, GuMiho is in Solar's head. Double missile turret in the main base. Okay, he's going to opt to settle for a bunch of those SCVs instead. That does mean that Gumi needs to actually commit with his army, I believe, though, because... I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to, but at this point, the work account for the Terran here is not really that great. Once again, right, missile turrets are nice and all. They can buy you a lot of time for your Marines to actually come defend, but... It's not like the Mutas are incapable of just target firing down... Ooh, careful, careful, careful! It's not like the Mutas can't just start target firing down the SCVs one at a time, so... Yeah, 19 workers at this point in the game. We did have the 4th command center done. I would say 4 bases, relatively easy to set up on a Tropical Sacrifice. Usually the 5th base is where things get a little bit harder. Still a large amount of Zerglings and Banelings, though. Zerg does not really have the luxury here to go up towards a hive, I don't think. Careful. Dude, I have seen so many Mutas going down this game. 17 Mutas. Ugh. Like, you can kind of throw away your Lings and Banes and just replace them, but your Mutas, they're kind of like your Medivacs or like your Sentries, you know? Like, you really want to, yeah, buy them once and keep them around. Good split, by the way, right there from Gumi. That was an amazing split. Once again, he's trying his very best to keep these units alive, and while GuMiho historically has never really been a bio-Terran, he's doing a fantastic job microing his army here. Once again, yeah, beautiful. Great stuff. And the Muta count at this point is just not high enough to really, yeah, chase down the rest of this force. There's definitely no Baneling run-bys or anything like that set up. GuMiho wants to try and see if he can kill that hatchery. Don't know if it's going to happen. Nice splits right there by Solar at the last possible moment. He will eventually clean this up, so that's nice. But if you look right now at the units lost, yeah, minerals and gas-wise, this is not really going particularly well here for Solar. Then again, Solar does have about 21 more workers. He's gone into the hive regardless, and he's gone into the Ultra Cavern too. Honestly, if he would have delayed the hive, he probably would have smashed back that army here from the Terran a little bit sooner. I think if he would have kept those 17 Mutas alive, he probably would have also kept that army at bay a bit easier. Anyhow, there's still Widow Mines burrowed all over the map. Gumi creating a bit of a minefield. Now finally a Zergling run-by comes in. Okay, I like this. +3 is coming up for the Zerg, as well as Adrenal Glands. So Adrenal Glands is a significant attack speed improvement for the Zerglings. Creep is, once again, though, not looking so hot. I think that's why GuMiho is approaching, yeah, the bases just wherever he can. He's just looking at the army here and the positioning of the creep. He's like, okay, if this is where the creep is at and that is where the army is located, I'm going to fight you right over here. That hatchery is still low from earlier, and despite the fact that Solar really tried to keep that alive, the next follow-up army here is... Oh my god, okay. Hold up, let me back off for a second. The next follow-up army right there from the Terran player proved to be a little bit too big. Now, while that was happening, apparently a bunch of Banelings, except for these two, they're just staring here at the Terran SCVs. Those workers apparently felt brave. Anyhow, they were sacrificed for the greater good. I still think getting a hatchery for 11 SCVs is okay, but I do feel that Solar probably could have gotten a little bit more damage in. Now is the point, though, where Solar starts up the big counterattacks. Fighting up a ramp. Yeah, Tropical Sacrifice is 4 layers, right? So there's a lot of high grounds. Can be quite tricky. Ultras are coming up. I think once these upgrades are done for the Zerg, this army from the Zerg is going to be quite powerful. At this point, though, that's a couple thousand resources invested that aren't really paying off yet. This is so different, though, than the majority of the TVZs that we see, right? I love this about GuMiho's games. It's almost like GuMiho doesn't watch any other Terran players play. He's like, nope, this is what we do, guys. You know what? Working out pretty damn well for him. That mine army over here is huge. There is, by the way, another counterattack up north. There's also a hatchery over here that is awkwardly by itself. Don't know if you can really pick up and get on out of there. Those Mutas, they might be able to snipe all of the Medivacs. That would be nice. I don't know if there's going to be enough time, though. Yeah, the boost is going to allow those Medivacs to get on out of there because, well, there's a large Terran army up north, too, that needs to be dealt with. So GuMiho actually does unload once again, finds that hatchery on the right side of the map, kills the hatchery up north. Okay. Yeah. For someone who's considered to have decent micro, but not amazing micro, Gumi is doing a fantastic job keeping his units alive so far. Beautiful. Even after 12 years of StarCraft 2, still getting better. Love to see that. Okay. +3 at this point is done. He never started up the +3 armor, which could bite him in the butt, especially since Solar does have 3-3 finished at this point. The creep, though, is incredibly lackluster. Well, that's mostly because there's constantly a Terran army at his front door, I suppose. It's a little bit different than what we normally see in TVZ once again. My god, Ultras are just popped. There's no... GG is cool. There's no Ghost or Liberators or anything like that, but apparently GuMiho doesn't need it. Yeah, I think Ultras can be quite good when you're ahead, right? When you have a lot of creep on the map and you're constantly pushing your opponent, that's when Ultras can be quite good. But I think overall, if you're being pushed super aggressively, Lurkers are usually the way to change the tide of battle. The problem is once you go into Mutilating Bane, then going into a Hydra Den, and into missile upgrades, and then eventually a Lurker Den. I haven't really seen anyone pull that off successfully in quite a while. There used to be the strategy, though. Now that I'm saying that, there used to be the strategy where you would go like 10 to 15 Mutas, and then you would go into a Hydra Den, and then eventually a Lurker Den too. That could sometimes catch players off guard, because the transition, you know, from Mutas into Lurkers is usually not quite done. And most of the time, Terrans will then, well, when they're playing against Mutilating Bane, they will stick around on that, that very bio-heavy focused army, right? Without Ghost or Liberators or any of the higher tech units. So then, well, if you suddenly show up with a bunch of Lurkers, you can just snipe the command center and get rid of that Terran force quite easily. Anyhow, game number 2. We find ourselves on Moondance. No hatchery first this time around, or sorry, no pool first this time around for Solar. He does decide to opt to go for a hatch into a gas and then eventually a spawning pool too. This is of course the gold standard in this matchup, and well, all of the matchups, but it's a little bit, yeah, a little bit riskier, right? So he's looking around with the Overlords, trying to make sure that there's no cheeky barracks coming up on his side of the map. None of that is happening though, as GuMiho is opting to go for a Reaper opener into a command center on the low ground. You know what, Gumi? You played a pretty normal game in game number 1, okay? Normal as in, like, 2020 normal? It made a lot of sense in that game. But that is also not the Gumi that we normally see. I would like to see a little bit of spiciness. Can we at least... I mean, this is a best of 5. Alright, there's a second barracks. Whoa, that Reaper? My god. You see it? It just made the longest jump I've ever seen a Reaper make. Alright, then. He's immediately out of fuel there. That jetpack can no longer be used. So he didn't go for an SCV scout, but he did go for a pretty quick second barracks. I was gonna say, maybe we can see battle cruisers at least once in this series, but with a, okay, this is not a triple rec start. With a double rec start, I don't think that's gonna happen. GuMiho is going for what seems to be a 2-1-1. This is a build that we have seen many times, once again in the past. It's one of those builds that never really... I guess loses popularity, but it's definitely not considered to be the strongest build right now. But on a map like this, on Moondance, that, yeah, barracks does feel kind of far away. An Overlord flying in from the back, for example, or from the natural would be quite difficult to scout it. Although Solar could go all the way around here with the OV and then eventually end up over there and then send it straight through the center. Although you can also... you can also just send in a Zergling. That Zergling definitely spotted it, right? Yeah. Okay, so Solar knows exactly what he's going up against right now. Great scout. Not supposed to happen, obviously, but yeah, great scout nonetheless. Okay, there's the reactor. No starport. Hello. I think Yo, SCV, I saw you sending information to make a starport. We really need one. Alright, there it is. Sometimes you notice the idle SCV button and you're like, hey, worker, get back to mining. And then you realize, wait a second, I sent it there early to start up a structure. Alright, Reaper Man does scout a main base. Nice little move right here from Gumi. It's important, right? You need to know what exactly is going on there. If this would be, if there would be like a hidden roach warren or even like a baneling nest, you really do want to see it. So getting that follow-up scout is huge. Solar though, alright, doing Solar things, it seems to me that he just wants to play that macro game, right? So I think that's probably a mindset that Solar has in this particular series. He's thinking, okay, if I survive the early game, I can probably win in the late game. In the previous game, he took a very significant economical hit in the early game, and then his mutas did nothing. So he's probably not too bothered by that. He's probably gonna go for a more standard opener this time around. Now, okay, GuMiho is actually bringing some spiciness here. I thought that this was gonna be your conventional 2-1-1. So the one where you go for 16 Marines and 2 medevacs and then, well, Stimpak at about the 5-minute mark. This is a different version of that build. This is a more up-to-date version of this build, and one of the reasons why we don't actually see Zergs going for a 1-1 upgrade before Baneling Nest anymore. He's decided to go for a factory with a reactor, single medevac production, and then a very quick armory. So this allows him to go for a whole lot of Marines. He's going to be able to get Stimpak at a very early time, but then also bring Hellbats to the party. And when Zerg players used to go 1-1, they would just straight up lose at this point in the game. How do you defeat this with just Zerglings and, well, a bunch of Queens? It can happen, but this is definitely a scary force. Medevac though? Okay, gotta be careful. Gotta keep that alive. Banelings are being morphed in right now, and even though Solar had the tech available, yeah, he doesn't really have... He doesn't really have the Banelings done yet. Now, they are gonna finish up, of course. Okay, just trying to snipe whatever he can. Keep that medevac alive, please. Yeah. Despite the fact that Solar didn't see this until the latest possible moment, I think that was still a pretty... Don't lose the medevac. Alright, that was still a pretty good cleanup there. There were a lot more units on the back of that. I wonder if maybe GuMiho should have slowed it down a bit. Yeah, so that is mostly like a skill check, right? If that would have been a Terran player going up against a Zerg who was... Really? We're still gonna use that? Okay, we're not gonna repair you back up to full yet. Anyways, if this would have been a Zerg player skipping the Baneling Nest, right? Opting to go for 1-1 upgrades first because he scouted it so early, that could have been a disaster. Careful now. Careful now, medevac man. Oh, yeah, no. Alright. See that so often, right? So common. Alright, so the lair at this point, significantly later here for Solar. He could still definitely go for a Spire if he wants to. He could also go into a Hydra then. He could even go straight into a Hive. Okay, a couple more reinforcing units without a medevac. I don't know if they are aware of this, but there's a very good chance that this is a one-way trip. They did at the very least force the council there on the 4th base, so that's very nice. They're trying to run away. Is his rally point just set to the middle of the map? Yeah, he just set his rally point right over there. Okay, Gumi. So normally what Terran players do is they rally on top of this supply depot. That is the norm. He's like, no, Lowko, hold my beer. I just rallied to the middle of the map. Interesting. Oh, and he's going for mech now. Alright, so this is GuMiho playing after all, guys. In game number 1, you could have convinced me that it was another Terran player. So GuMiho, let me get this straight. He goes for a very quick Stimpak upgrade. Then he follows it up with combat shields. He sets himself up for a beautiful bio mid-game. And then he's like, you know what? Not feeling it. Obviously, that could be a mind game once again. Because as a Zerg here, you would definitely not expect a mech transition. Yeah, no, I don't think I would expect it anyways. Are we gonna get the units out of there? He's thinking about fighting it. Baneling speed is gonna finish up here. Centrifugal hooks in about 4 seconds. A Raven and a fusion core. Okay, so 2-1-1 opener with a cheeky little Hellbat push. That's a mistake. There's definitely no way he means to go double fusion core. But anyways, after going combat shields and Stimpak, he then decides to... And then we still go into engineering base? Huh? Okay, at least he noticed that he was making a second one. So... 2-1-1 opener with cheeky Hellbat push. Into Terran mech, into battle cruisers, I think. Into double NG. Huh? I mean, he's already got +1 attack done here for the mechanical units on the ground. There's even the Yamato cannon being researched right away. It's cool, don't get me wrong. It is very cool, but this is GuMiho investing a lot of resources into things that haven't really served them that well. I mean, I would say the Marines and the Marauders here in the early stage of the game have been quite good. Now he goes Blue Flame first. So what would he NG base for? He's spending a lot of resources on things that aren't necessarily super helpful. Because he's going to have to commit. No, he does go 1-1 upgrades. Huh? So we go Blue Flame before 1-1 upgrades. I wonder if Solar is scratching his head. Honestly, at this point, Solar, he's seen the timing of his opponent's 4th base. He's probably thinking, okay, if you're only just now going for a 4th base at this point, I don't know what you're up to, but I must be feeling pretty good. This Battlecruiser, though, could definitely catch him off guard. There is, a group of queens and there's 7 Hydras. But honestly, Hydras absolutely suck against Battlecruisers. If he could, he could save them up. He could wait until he has multiple Battlecruisers ready to go. Oh, we're going into Ghost right away, too. So this is him transitioning towards Ghost Mech after all. Ghost Mech with double upgrades. It's just going to take him a long time before he actually maxes out with this army. I wonder if the route that he took to get there is not just simply a little bit too long. What is this siege tank? Huh? Oh my god, this is the sickest bait, man. I think a bunch of Zerglings are going to see this siege tank in the marine and then think, huh, it's a free tank. And then, the tanks on the high ground are going to shell away at whatever's going down here. Careful now, Links and Banes. Anyhow, Battlecruiser teleported towards the bottom right-hand corner, and now it's waiting for the recall. No, is it waiting for the recall? Okay, no, I think it was just waiting until we had the APM available to actually... My god, this makes no sense. So he just went for NG base, 2 of them, to get ghost upgrades. Ultimately a great idea, don't get me wrong. If he lives until the 20-minute mark, it's gonna be pretty great. Anyways, Spire is coming up. Solar has one hell of an army. He's maxed out right now. He's got a near 60 supply lead. He can definitely start swarming this. Now, maybe that's why the anti-armor missile has been brought out. GuMiho desperately trying to buy as much time here as he can, but does it really matter? Solar's thinking, okay, you know what? If you are gonna get this greedy, right? If you're spending this much money on things that aren't really gonna benefit you until much later, I am just gonna hit you in the face. Do you have enough stuff? Battlecruiser here in the bottom right-hand corner is being pushed back. I wonder if that BC needs to be home. 68 additional Zerglings coming up as well. There's a greater Spire here building for Solar, who's happily sitting at a very good economy. And now suddenly, the Natural is in trouble. The in-base Expo is in trouble as well. The main base is not going to be too far behind. Battlecruiser does come back home, and while Hydras usually aren't that good against BCs, I mean, if it's only 1 BC, you have like 24 Hydras. Not a bad situation at all. I think that Solar's read here, though, is brilliant, right? The fact that he is not sitting there scratching his head. That could be a lot of Zerg players, right? That probably would be me. He's like, what in the world is happening in this game? If he gave his opponent a bit more time, I think the army that GuMiho was building would have been too much for him to handle. But at this point, Solar grabs a nice 70 supply lead. I think he's making himself up for wave number 2. Now there's a Viper in the mix. Now Adrenal Glance is going to kick in. Okay, well, that was a nice little Widowmine detonation. Not that many siege tanks available anymore, though, but Blinding Cloud is going to disable the siege tank as well as the planetary. Solar obtains the victory in game number 2. Excellent game right there from Solar. I really liked what GuMiho was trying to do, but I think he got a little bit carried away on the creativity, right? I mean, sometimes you're trying so hard to outsmart your opponent that you're accidentally outsmarting yourself. Right, because it seemed to me that GuMiho was thinking about 4 steps in advance and not really the fact that his opponent had a massive army right at that point in the game already. I mean, Solar did not get mind gamed, right? And even though GuMiho was trying very hard to play the mind game about 12 times over, Solar just looked at it, he's like, okay, if you're making all these moves, it must mean that your actual army is not that big. I mean, did GuMiho even start up ghost production there yet? You need like a dozen ghosts before the ghosts really become useful. And honestly, in that army that Solar was playing, and maybe that's why the ghosts weren't building yet, but with that army that Solar was going for, it was mostly just Hydra Bane. You really don't need, any ghost yet, right? So it was preparing for a game that Solar wasn't playing, and Solar could have gotten caught up in the mind games that GuMiho was going for, but he just looked at it, he's like, nope, that's not enough. I'm just gonna go kill you. All right. So that evens up the score 1-1. Data C is going to be map number 3. This is usually a map where, the games do go the distance. I've casted quite a few long macro games on this map recently, but I don't know. I think Solar is probably happy to play that game, but I don't think GuMiho is. Pretty much all the top-level Terrans in Korea right now really like playing that Ghost Mech army, and while it seemed to me that GuMiho was attempting that force, he doesn't really strike me as the type of guy who really does that. He really is very much so a trickster, right? He's like a trickster Terran, where you try your very best to just play a strategy game. I know, it's crazy. Playing a strategy game in a real-time strategy game? That's wild. Anyhow, little Jimmy over here has been sent out with a gun to hunt down overlords. There's absolutely no way that there would be an overlord here yet, though. Right? Would there be? Could there already? No, I guess there could already be an overlord. No, he decided to just plant the overlord over here in the middle of the map. Oh my god. I had no idea that these minerals... Oh no, I thought they were moving. They're not moving. They're just very glowy. I don't know what is glowing inside of them. Well, I guess they are moving, you know, the inside. But I thought the physical thing was rolling around on top of the ledge. That's not what's happening. The little crab beetle over here, though. Aw. It's kind of cute. Not as cute as Otto the Overlord, of course. Don't get me wrong, Otto. Love you, man. Anyhow. What are we going to do this time around, Gumi? Look at Solar, by the way. Scouting literally all the corners on this map. He does not want to be... Well, not literally. But he does not want to be caught off guard against something stupid. Yep. And I think that previous game kind of proved that his strategy in this series so far... Yeah, it does work, right? Game number 1, he kind of... Yeah, shot himself in the foot. Game number 2, though, worked out really nicely for him. Let's try and get that big macro going. Try and make a large army, and then overwhelm. Alright, do we have any tricks coming up right here, Gumi? Looks like a conventional 1-1-1. Yeah, not quite conventional. Normally we would have the barracks building the tech lab here instead. Anyhow, it's gonna be a lot of Marines. Interesting. So it's gonna be 1 medevac. And then I guess maybe still into Banshees? That could... Oh, no. Ah, okay. We're gonna go for the triple Rex follow-up. I see. Now GuMiho is doing it to me as well. Where I'm thinking, okay, what could GuMiho be thinking, right? He's playing mind games with the commentator. That's when you know you've gone very far as a player. Nope, he's just gonna go for the triple Rex. Fair enough. So, combat shields, Stimpak, +1 upgrades. I'm expecting all of those things to come up very soon. Stimpak has already started up, of course. Longest upgrade. Yeah, Solar not entirely sure what he's going up against, so this is him preparing in case it would be a battle cruiser or a liberator or a medevac drop. I think he's probably figured out by now that it's likely not going to be Banshees, but if it were to be Banshees, he could still, well, uproot it and move it around. Okay. 3rd command center coming up. Building it on location. A little bit brave. Never really liked that. So a lot of Terran players on the ladder that feel inspired by this sort of thing too, okay? I think if you're at this level, maybe you can reliably pull it off. But I see so many viewer-submitted games of players that are like, I don't know, in Diamond League, I guess, or like below, where people are just looking at this and they're like, yep, that's what you do. And then a small group of Zerglings comes in, kills the SCV, sometimes forces the council on the CC. I think below, probably below like Master 1. You really just want to build the command center over here and just take the flight of shame, okay? I know it feels bad, I know it feels awkward, but just fly it over there, okay? It's much safer. It will probably win you more games, well, than if you build it on the low ground right over there. Anyhow, yeah, 1-1 upgrades are actually quite far behind. It's already, yeah, 2 barracks right here with reactors on them, so assuming he actually produces out of those structures, hello. Should be able to build quite a few of them all at once. GuMiho doesn't really have a whole lot of money, though, at this point. I don't know if I like this position here for Gumi. Like, again, he is going for a lot of moves. And he's trying really hard to play mind games on his opponent, and apparently the commentator. But Solar, yeah, again, looking pretty good. Now, he did get the council right there on that hatch. That's a little bit sloppy by Solar. Not entirely sure why he thought that he could just keep that base alive. That is obviously, well, a full hatchery down the drain, plus the drone, right? So, best case scenario here for Gumi. Didn't think that was gonna happen. Okay. The 1 Hellion. Sorry, buddy. Didn't get your pickup. This is your life now. Or, well, your death now. A little bit disappointing. Alright. Yeah, so it seems to me that Gumi wants to play a little bit more laid back in this particular match. Obviously, he can keep dropping and he can do little bits of harassment like he has been doing over here already, but I don't really like this all too much. I think that Solar is right in the sense that if he gets to play his standard macro game, he'll probably feel a little bit stronger overall. Honestly, getting that snipe on the 4th headward's big, though. Like, he didn't go for, like, a double 4th base, right? I would really like to see that, where you go for, like, 2 potential 4th bases, and then you just treat one of the additional hatcheries as a macro hatch instead. Anyhow, his economy is a little bit slower, but it seems to me that he wants to go into lurker play this time around. So Hydroden is coming up. He does have a large amount of Zerglings on the other side of the map too. But again, I think that Solar at this point is like, okay, thank God, I survived the early game. Wasn't the cleanest early game, but it's fine. Getting a siege tank over here. Loses a lot of Zerglings, though. He has lost a lot of units in his game so far. Yeah. Maybe I'm giving him a little bit too much praise. This is honestly all a little bit sloppy. Siege tank over there in the back as well now, by the way. Adrenal glands. Oh, sorry, yeah, Centrifugal Hooks here is done finally. Feels very late for the 8-minute mark. Gumi hasn't started up 2-2 yet, though. He did make an armory. What a weird game. Yeah, this hatchery is actually just gonna fall again. Ah, okay. You know what? Despite all the craziness that's going on, this is now definitely a nice lead here for GuMiho. Because Zerg at the 8.5-minute mark still does not have 4-base economy. He has drones, but he's been long distance mining with the workers here for a while already. Now finally, when that hatchery finished, it gets killed again. I think that maybe this base may be in a little bit of trouble too. A lot of drones get targeted here. Nicely done by GuMiho. Okay. There's the second factory. 4th command center just about to finish up. Excellent position here for the Terran player to transition towards that, well, that ghost-based army, right? But I don't think it's gonna happen. Pretty sure that GuMiho right now is setting himself up for a large attack. So these upgrades, together with the +1, well, siege tank upgrades, are gonna finish up right around the same time. And that is gonna make one hell of a timing attack. There is quite a bit of creep through the center of the map. So that might buy Solar a bit of time, but he's going into a hive right now. He really needs to put down the lurker den, though. This siege tank over here. Oh my god. That siege tank? It's such a beautiful position. I think it just died with 21 kills. Well worth it. So normally what we see is a Zerg player taking 2 bases when they go for the 4th, right? Especially when playing Ling Bane. So it's quite common to take the 4th base and then also like an in-base macro hatch. Or one of the moves that I personally really like is you take 1 4th base and then you take like a 4th base 2.0 just in case your 4th base 1.0 ends up going down. I think that would have been an amazing game move in this particular match here for Solar, because he would have had a lot more mining. Anyhow, didn't make that decision, decided to stick around on 3 hatcheries for quite a while there. And then losing the 4th base twice, not ideal. Yeah, GuMiho is just going to continuously push this. He's now setting himself up for a big attack over here in the bottom right-hand corner, though. Problem is, the upgrades aren't done yet, and Zerg knows that there's a huge Terran army on idle there. +2/+2. Finished. +1 attacks as well for the mech. Soon to be done. Okay, baiting the banelings into the siege tank radius. I love that. Look at the spread over here on these tanks. GuMiho wants to move this fight off creep so badly. Go straight into 3-3. No Ghost Academy or anything like that yet. In the meantime, there's a drop as well happening in the natural. There's a drop happening over at the 3rd, or I guess the whatever base that is. Maybe now it's the 5th base. Expansion here in the bottom right-hand corner is given up on. Natural drop still not cleaned up. This one will be pushed back for now, but the hatchery in the bottom right did get picked off. GuMiho! GuMiho, nicely done, man. The way in which we got here, I don't know if I like it all too much, but look at him microing the little marines into the medevacs. Okay, now Vipers are available, but this is Solar now playing, well, Hydroling Bane with Viper support. Now finally the Lurker Den's coming up. Yeah, mostly because he just didn't have the money, right? He probably would have liked to. Anyhow, Gumi is maxed. 4th bases, up and running. 5th command center, flying on over towards that position, and now we go into the Ghost Academy. Alright. He's not gonna slow down though, is he? I don't think so. He still has medevacs full of units hanging out. No mute outplay this time around, of course. I guess with Vipers, he can kind of pull them back, but siege tanks once again spreading out. We do have quite a bit of creep still in this area, but it's slowly dissipating. So Solar actually decides to now push the attack move button to try and move forward, but his army is looking quite small. That being said, if you can disable a bunch of those tanks with the blinding clouds, that obviously is amazing. Medevac drops over in the natural are cleaned up. Marines over at the 4th base up north also cleaned up. Not enough army though for Solar to really get rid of these tanks just yet, but it looks like he's sending follow-up Zerglings in this direction right now. Okay. Despite the fact that Solar had a much smaller army there, he still manages to hold off. Wave 2 though. Underway. Another tank. Okay. Solar does end up sniping that. Still no lurkers, man. Like, imagine like 5 lurkers over here. Blinding Cloud instead is going to be the name of the game. And don't get me wrong, those Vipers have been amazing. But a couple of lurkers here would be so huge. He's investing so heavily into upgrades. I really don't think he can afford that. I mean, I guess he's got a lot of gas, but I think that going for lurkers here would be so much better. Anyhow, yep, GG is cold. GuMiho wins game number 3. Okay, so next up, Stargazers. Match point right here for GuMiho. Hey, Gumi. I know we went for battle cruisers once already, but we really didn't see that many. Would I be greedy if I asked for some battle cruiser shenanigans? I would have liked to see a CC first, actually, but maybe that's way out of character. Honestly, I don't think I really like that build there for both of the players in the previous game. I mean, it would have been really nice for Solar if he didn't end up losing that base, like, you know, over and over and over again. Probably not happy with his performance in that game 3, to be honest. Solar, that is. I mean, the thing is, right, the loss in game number 1 was like, okay, I ended up going Mutas, I lost a bunch of Mutas, it is whatever, right? But game 3, like, that was a build that he plays over and over and over again, that he has played literally thousands of times. Losing the 4th base is not part of that equation. That really should not happen. And yeah, I wasn't paying very close attention right there to exactly what Solar was doing, but something must have gone wrong with his build. I think he ended up finishing up the Centrifugal Hooks upgrade at like the 8-minute mark. That seemed incredibly late to me. Anyhow. He gets another shot. Will he capture it? Or will he let it slip? Knees weak, arm spaghetti. There's spaghetti on his sweater already. Mom spaghetti. He's nervous. But guess what? On the surface, he looks calm spaghetti. To drop spaghetti already. Okay. Anyway. A Reaper Man going into the main. Yeah. Nice little bit of micro. Honestly, Gumi really has stepped up his micro quite a bit, though. Like, maybe his micro was never actually that bad, but maybe it's what happens when you know, play mech a lot. People will tell you that your micro sucks. Because the only reason why anyone would possibly want to play Terran mech is because they have bad micro, right? No, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the case. Anyhow. Really, Gumi. So where are we going to take this base? Every time I see someone going for a quick command center on Stargazers, being it a quick natural or a quick third, they use the in-base expo. But the positioning right here of this CC, maybe he wants to like, yeah, maybe that's it, right? He probably wants to prevent his opponent from actually scouting it early. So he's going for a macro opener. That is a pretty quick gas, but sadly not the third gas geyser. Starport in the back. Oh, will I get my wish? I would like to see some battle cruisers. Yeah, you know what? You can wake me up for battle cruisers, quite literally. There's the third gas. Okay. Will we see a fusion core as soon as the starport is done? Ah. 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 Think so. There it is. Love that. So this is maybe not a command center first level of greed, but this is still a very greedy start. This is quick triple CC into battle cruisers, meaning that until like 7 minutes, okay, maybe until like 6 minutes into the game, 5.5 minutes into the game, there will literally be like 5 units for the Terran that can actually fight. So yeah, there's 2 Marines, there's 4 Hellions, there's a Reaper. Imagine a Roach push, right? The majority of the Roach attacks from Zerg hit at about 4:30, or for example, 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. No, eventually a battlecruiser would come out, but by the time that the battlecruiser kills anything, I think all of the SCVs would already be dead, right? And obviously mules are pretty good, but they're not quite that good. Then again, Solar has been a pretty predictable player so far in this series. Because of that, well, this level of greed is possible. I like, by the way, how GuMiho is almost like selling the story again, right? So these are basically all the units that he's got, other than like 2 Marines at home. Really? No, I don't think you can afford that. Okay, I was going to say, if you lose these units, just a Zergling counterattack could be problematic. He even lands the command center. So he is selling the story here of a standard macro opener, right? Anyhow, battlecruiser, building. It's going to finish up in about, well, 20 seconds? Yeah, dude. A roach push would have absolutely destroyed Mr. Gumi here. But GuMiho is playing the series, and I like that a lot. GuMiho is actually very good when it comes to playing a series, yeah. I would say Solar never really the best guy when it comes to like preparing for a series. He just plays the same strat over and over and over again. Kind of reminds me of like, say, like an innovation. I think having variety in your playstyle and not being predictable is super important. Anyways, battlecruiser numero uno. It's made it into the main base right here of the Zerg. This is the first time at which the Zerg player sees it. Hellions pretending to run by at the third as well to try and keep those queens occupied over there. Nicely done. Mech as a follow-up, by the way. Second battlecruiser coming up. Armory also building. So, Larry here is very late, right? The ultimate counter against battlecruiser is the Corruptor for Zerg. But we are not even remotely close to, Corruptor tech. And since GuMiho jumped that battlecruiser into the main base first and foremost, he actually knows what he's going up against. Oh, looks like there may have been a little bit of a lag spike. Alright. Anyhow, 9 drones have already gone down. GuMiho going for the 4th base on the 4th base position. Still not actually mining the super easy to acquire in-base expo. Interesting. Anyways, there's a Spire coming up. Minute or so from now, Solar can start thinking about actually adding on a counter to these battlecruisers. But for now, he's mostly just running them around in circles. Battlecruiser number 2. Dose. He goes straight into the base. Hellions being quite annoying here as well. Battlecruiser in the top left corner does have tactical jump again available. Armory at this point is done. Don't lose it. You'll be able to keep that alive because the Hellbats need to be dealt with as well. Zerglings are going in for the counterattack. Battlecruiser in the main base once again going back in for more. Oh, careful now. I was going to say, if you sent those drones too early, the Hellbats would be more than happy to start roasting. Alright. Battlecruiser's going back home. Grouping back together. And at this point, I think GuMiho is pretty satisfied with the way that this game is going. He saved his piggy bank over here. Didn't even need to smash that yet, so that's nice. More factories are coming up. We're going into Cyclone? Really? Alright, another battlecruiser is building. I think GuMiho is probably the most entertaining Terran player to watch. Yeah. Yeah. There, I said it. That Zergling is practically invisible. I noticed him on the minimap, but... It's little, what are those? Like the grabber arms right there on top of his body. They're pretending to be a plant. If he sits very still, it'll be hard to notice. Anyways, barracks over here up north pretending to be a, I don't know, a battlecruiser or something? I guess it's here to see if there's any corruptors flying on over in this direction. So he knows that there's at least 2 of those, battlecruisers out, right? Usually when there's smoke, there's fire. So when you see 2 battlecruisers, there's a very good chance there's going to be at least 3. And when you're playing against GuMiho, there's a very good chance there's going to be at least 12. So he is adding on more corruptors than you would ultimately need against just 2 of those BCs. But still, Solar has secured himself a decent economy. At the very least, he didn't lose his 4th base like 4 times this time around, so he's got that going for himself. He's going into +1/+1 upgrades. He already finished up bailing speed of him. No, actually, no, he's researching that one too. And he's got the ultra roach upgrades. Derp. So, Roach, Ravager, Lingbane, Corruptor. It's one hell of a mid-game army, but also a very expensive one, and one that will not usually trade particularly cost-efficiently. Although so far, yeah, GuMiho has also lost quite a few units of his own. He's going into Mass Cyclone, which I actually don't think is what you want to be making against this sort of thing. So he's making a lot of Cyclones and BCs. We're already at 4 battlecruisers. Yamato Cannon at this point is done as well. He definitely wants to try and scan and then, you know, rapid fire a bunch of those Yamatos down. Anyways, GuMiho already transitioning towards the Mass Command Center style. Double armory as well. He's remaking the barracks because, well, if you don't have a barracks, you can't actually add on additional factories. I think if you're gonna play Roach, Ravager, Lingbane with Corruptors, you really do need to fight, though. The problem is, look at this setup right here from the Terran. It's got a lot of choke points, a lot of spread on the siege tanks, a lot of static defense, and obviously Yamato gun available as well. It's gonna be very hard for the Zerg player to actually get an engagement in. Alright, he's gonna try. A couple of Zerglings moving forward. But I mean, a main engagement over here, right? On top of the actual Terran army. Smart servos even coming up here for Gumi. That allows him to transition his Hellions into Hellbats a little bit quicker. Okay. Yamato? No. I think if you're playing Solar's style right here, you really do want to have like 100 drones. Because this army is never going to trade efficiently against the Terran force. Your main goal is usually to try and just simply overwhelm them, right? And then, you know, send in wave after wave after wave of units. The problem is, the economy here from Gumi is already incredible. Look at this. He is planting down more and more command centers. This man is playing the late game. Now would be a time to start adding on those additional barracks and then maybe, you know, upgrades as well for a ghost transition. So, unlike what we saw in game number 2, I think right now would be a pretty good moment to go ahead and, you know, head for that tech. Anyhow. After +2 attacks, we're going into +1 flyer attacks. Interesting. Air weapons, that is. Flyer attacks are the Zerg version of this. Yeah, fantastic series so far by GuMiho, I'm not gonna lie. I think in game number 2, he got a little bit carried away by himself. Like, game number 2, the biggest enemy in that match wasn't so much Solar, it was himself, right? Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, really good. He hasn't won this game yet, but I really like what Gumi is doing here. Yep, intercepting that as well. Blue Flame Hellbats. Pretty good against Zerglings, it turns out. He's got scans for days right now as well, and he sees this low-tech Zerg army. Probably wondering if there's going to be a big transition, a big tech transition coming up after this as well. Okay. We do need to see the Yamato cannons once again. He's adding on Cyclones, probably primarily to aid with the battlecruisers as well. The siege tank spread, though, is ridiculous. Yeah, you're not going to be able to fight anything, man. As a Zerg here with a ground army, I mean, unless you suddenly whip out 100 Zerglings with every single attack wave, fighting this amount of tanks is not going to be easy. Keep in mind, the Zerg upgrades here are also split between the Roaches, Ravagers, and then the Zerglings and the Banelings. So it's not like Zerg has the sickest attack force here either. He hasn't actually even transitioned yet towards additional upgrades, so this could get a little bit awkward. Anyways, hatchery building down south. Command Center is going to try and land on top of that in a moment. Look at the siege tank spread. Ridiculous. Yeah, you're not going to fight that, bro. Solar, you can try. A couple SCVs over here as well, just to keep this this Terran army as high HP as possible, repairing whatever they can. Hatchery down south will not be cancelled. No, it will be. Never mind. Brute Lords are coming up. But honestly, look at the bank. Solar has, like, despite the fact that he's got 92 drones mining here for a long time, he's got very little. Yeah, he can add on a couple of Brute Lords. So Brute Lords are going to be great against the siege tank spread in particular. But don't forget that there's still Cyclones out and there's still Battlecruisers too. They have one Yamato gun each, so yeah, we're gonna be able to just pop these units out of the sky relatively easily. Some static defense added as well. Alright, here we go. Pew, pew, pew. One of the BCs does end up going down, but I think one battle cruiser for 3, well, brute lords there is not bad at all. A new hatchery is building once again down south. So I think that's why GuMiho is actually heading on over in this location in particular, right? To try and secure the base over here. Anyways. Mules are replacing the lost SCVs right now. So there's economy here from the Terran. I mean, it doesn't look so hot right now, but just wait until this graph updates, okay? Yeah, it's gonna be a very, very sharp turn down south. It doesn't update very frequently. Alright, well, we'll check again in a moment. If well, don't forget that is. Okay. He's gonna try. You know what? Solar is trying to break through this, and he may very well manage. No. Kind of. Okay, can we have a look? That's not even that bad. Those mules are obviously only temporary as well, right? Anyways, Terran's now building 4 battle cruisers at once. While Solar is just thinking about breaking the siege tanks, and while he finally manages to pull that off, if at this point Solar transitions towards more battle well, he wishes he could make battle cruisers. If he transitions towards additional brute lords, that would be a disaster, right? Now there's Thors available, there's battle cruisers available, additional siege tanks are coming up too. BCs take a long time to produce, but they definitely pack a punch, especially with the +2 air weapons. Alright. I just don't see how Solar can win against this sort of army without trading multiple times. He really can't, right? So now there's only a handful of Corruptors available. Now the battlecruiser fleet suddenly shows up. Corruptors are, well, all but gone right now. There's a couple more sprinkling in. There's a parasitic bomb, fair enough. GG is cool though. Despite the fact that Solar had good upgrades, 91 drones still mining, he's recognized the situation that he's in. And even though that is definitely a bit of an early GG, I think it goes very well with the rest of the series. GuMiho playing some extreme mind games, and even though he tricked himself successfully once as well, he does obtain the victory in the ESL Open Cup of 137 for South Korea. Hey, if you made it all the way until the end of this video, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. I know that literally every single YouTuber on this platform asks for that, but it really does help. I wouldn't be bothering you with it if it didn't. Hey, thanks.